Today's episode of Poets at War is sponsored by the following. Imagine countless worlds before you. Fantasy and science fiction tales. Heroes charging gallantly into battle, heedless of win or fail. Upon the ancient steps of glory, a battle for time must be won. Join the characters from every realm as they seek the words, "Well done." Audio Adventures Podcast by Joshua David Ling, full of epic poetry, sure to make your heart sing. If you like listening to Rob Inglis read The Lord of the Rings, or Andrew Peterson read his Wingfeather Saga, you'll love Audio Adventures by Joshua David Ling. Visit joshuadavidling.com/audioadventures to listen.
Today on Poets at War, we speak with Ian M., also known by his regular name, Ian Maphet, a worship leader, a poet, a singer, a songwriter, and we talk about the church and art and many other things. This is Poets at War.
My church put out, you'll be interested in this. My church put out they wanted to see what it would be for professional help for fixing our sanctuary situation. We got a huge, beautiful sanctuary. It sounds amazing when music's being played in it, but we got an older congregation like most churches, and they cannot hear the pastor. Just because it's just too much reverb off the walls, everything else. It's bad.
Yeah.
So what I did was I brought not backup. It's for like when we do cookouts and stuff, speaker system into the sanctuary as a temporary test, and essentially put them on stands just over the heads of the audience, because we had one giant speaker pointed at a 45-degree angle down from the ceiling, and it was bouncing off the concrete carpeted floor and back up into the ceiling and all kinds of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I just put it right there over the heads of the audience. We just got our quote back today. $94,000 for a steerable speaker array and sound baffling.
Oof.
Yeah.
Daggum. It's crazy how expensive that stuff gets. Goodness.
I know. But yeah.
Wow. Have y'all looked into just like a I forget what it's officially called, but kind of like a hearing aid system?
Yo, we have that. We have that. We're gonna
have that.
We do have that, and some people are cool with that, and we've talked about upgrading that. That's what was the first suggestion someone said. But we're going to need to make a more permanent and aesthetically pleasing solution than what I currently have. Anyway, I think the placement on what I have is going to be the best thing we can possibly do. So, but it's just I felt kind of vindicated with the sticker shock, so I was just like so
but we're getting started on some renovations for our sanctuary, and it's like I originally planned for about 12,000 because we were doing a fundraiser. And the more I put it together, the more I was like, I might need more. Probably will need more, because goodness, that stuff adds up so fast.
Yeah, it sure does. But yeah, so for those of the people who are listening who don't know, basically describe your job and what you've been doing all these years that I've known you, for sure, as an artist and that sort of a thing.
Well, right now I am serving a church in South Central Illinois, which that's a long story.
Well, they don't know where you're originally from, so you know.
That's true. I was starting out in Georgia. My wife was born and raised there. I was raised there, so moving to Illinois was never on the game plan. But the Lord had other plans. But I'm currently serving as worship in I think my official title is worship and media minister for a I guess about 250 member, maybe 300 church, and it's kind of a small agricultural town, and it's funny going from Atlanta to a place like this. I get to be kind of a big fish in a small pond kind of thing, just because I have this experience and really not many other people do. So that I let me see. Professionally, I guess you could say I've been leading worship for about 10 years.
And never since I've known you before that.
Yeah, pretty much. 10 years is about how long I've been getting paid for it. 20 years, I think, is how long I've really been doing it. So yeah, long time leading worship. And on the side, I try to write songs. I try to write across the board, stylistically and all that. But so it ranges from praise and worship to heavy metal. And I've got a bunch of stuff out on Spotify and Apple Music and all those other sources.
Yep.
So yeah. And I'm blessed to be able to use some of the songs I've written in worship and actually have gotten good feedback. So
yeah, that's always really rewarding. I've had a few songs that I've written that we perform, to various basic tunes and things, and that's always really, really enjoyable for me to just hear the words sung. Just that part of it, you're actually creating full songs with chords and everything, and y'all are more of a praise and worship kind of church, I'm sure, because so it's not just your standard hymn tunes and things. You get to see how your music and structure actually can affect the worship of the congregation, which is I think probably pretty rewarding. So
absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, we met.
It's still kind of gives goosebumps.
Yeah. If you want to go into that more, you can. Otherwise, I'll just go on to what I was going to say.
I mean, it's hard to explain, like when you hear people singing back your own music, and it's you don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, look at me, but like at the same time, it's like, I wrote that. I mean, God used me to write that, but I wrote that and people are actually seeing it. It's like, this is cool.
Yep. And you pray that the songs outlast you. That's the really exciting thing,
Amen to that.
That's how I feel about my stories and my poetry. And that from all the years we've known each other. Rewinding back, I met you years and years ago. I know for sure for the first time. I probably met you through the grapevine before this, but back during the late 2000s period, mid to late 2000s period at it was then Trinity Presbyterian Church in Alpharetta, Georgia. And you were working in worship there. You're about 5 or 6 years older than me, something like that. And so
thereabouts.
Yeah, we got on pretty well, but I was a little bit younger, and we kind of just talked here and there. Years and years later, Chris Reyes and Benjamin Curley and I started the Story to Screen podcast, and they really wanted another guy on, especially Chris did. He wanted more people to rotate and have some friends to talk about movies. And I suggested you because I knew you love movies and love talking story and all kinds of things like that. And we brought you in and had a really good time. And that was just a really fun time. Now that I finally get everybody but my sister on so far that we've had on regularly on the Story to Screen. You were the next one. So, but yeah, what were your that whole period, like from Trinity to Story to Screen? What was that period like for you? Because I don't think I've ever talked to you about your life during that period or anything like that. I know it was very formative for you.
Yeah, I think Trinity, and then what it eventually became, was very impactful because it kind of helped me establish myself not just as a worship leader, but as a leader. And I just kind of under Bill Palace's kind of tutelage, and then later I can't think of his name.
Hardy.
Yeah, yeah. He definitely had his faults, and I think he misunderstood where I was coming from on some things, but just kind of it was very formative in that it helped me understand in a broader and deeper way, not just the power of music in church, but my role as a leader in that. And that, I'm not just the guy standing up front strumming his guitar and hoping people catch on. There's a intentionality to it that is very crucial to what I do. And so that was that was a big deal. And later Hardy and I kind of had a little bit of a falling out. I think he was trying to do something that really wasn't quite working, and I was probably not as gracious in my response to that as I should have been. So we ended up kind of parting ways. But yeah, I mean, during that time I was also pursuing videography stuff and trying to establish myself as a videographer, and eventually that didn't work out so well just because God had other plans. But yeah, it was very, very formative time.
Yeah, and then getting into story to screen, I know I had a really fun time. Anytime you were on, we always had a good time talking all the Marvel movies and stuff that came out during that time period, and all the other things that we came up with and saw. It was just a really good time. And then you got married, and I was hot on your heels after that, getting married myself. And we all just kind of moved apart, moved our own directions. But one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is you're a person who it doesn't ever really shy away from theological conversation and stating what the scripture says. And that's something that in worship leader contexts, where people have the more modern idea of a worship leader as opposed to the more congregational style, there tends to be a little bit more of the playing to people's what equivocation maybe would be the word. And and that's something that you've grown in grace. You've grown to be able to really talk with people. But you and I were kind of brought up in more kind of reformed circles and everything, and that's one thing that I've always really admired about you, is you've had this ability to, and you see it in your music too, you're very clear with what the truth is, and when you're not clear, you back down. And you're very honed in on the truth, and you realize that the truth, if you don't have truth, you don't have your beauty, and you don't have beauty, you don't have the truth. And that's something that I've always admired about you and the work that you do. Is that something that has always been kind of natural to you, or something that you've had to really work at over the years, or both?
I probably both, really. Ever since I can remember, just starting out, when I was starting to get comfortable with guitar, and especially at that point, that was during the what you could call the verse chorus point in modern praise and worship, where you had the first, you had a chorus, and you just repeated until the Spirit moved, and that drove me crazy. So starting out, I wanted to change things. I wanted to bring put something in there that really was impactful and meaningful, and I think the Lord's definitely softened some of those edges since. But yeah, ever since I can remember, like, just the truth has always been so important to everything I've done, and it's definitely rubbed some people the wrong way for sure. Again, I've grown in graciousness since that, my teenage years. But that it's one of those things you got to learn after a while. It's like, the truth has to be out there, and you got to be willing to shine the light on falsity. And so I still try to do that. That's still incredibly important to me. And I'm glad that you said that. I really appreciate that, because that means I'm somewhat successful in what I'm trying to do with my music, because that is so important to when I write. I don't want to just write something nice and that sounds good. I want to write something that's meaningful and impactful and that's truthful.
Our influences change over time. So when I ask this question, I don't want you to give me just the full on ideals. I'd love to hear that too. But starting toward that beginning period and how that changed, how did your influences change over time, musically and lyrically? There's so many different great worship leaders, you and I, and not just worship leaders, but just Christian artists that we've talked about over the years. You got your Rich Mullins, Stephen Curtis Chapman, the guys like that. And then you've got, some more obscure artists and things like that we both like, and some that I don't even know about. But like, walk me through how your influences have changed and where you're at now, where your biggest influences are.
Well, starting out, the stuff I listened to a lot was, like you said, there's some obscure,
and not just Christian stuff too. You could throw in the other ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Like in terms of musical style, like Plank Eye was a huge influence to me, just in the way they played. And not many it's always a surprise to me when someone knows who Plank Eye is. And usually it's like, oh yeah, they played at my church that time. I got to hang out with them, and it's like, oh cool, I never got to see them live. But musically, them and the 5 Hour and Frenzy were big influences. I loved 5 Hour and Frenzy's just sometimes raw emotion. That always appealed to me. And then you had OC Supertones. Loved OC Supertones, just because they always tried to keep it positive but real.
Yeah.
And they were so they were so good at straddling that line, I guess you could say, between being super theological and super cheesy.
Yeah.
Because it's ska. Ska is a little silly.
Yeah, you can't take ska 100% seriously. You just can't.
You really can't. So like, you had bands like that, and then I'll be honest, Chevelle was a huge band for me at that point. Just because as a teenager, I was working through so many raw emotions, and Chevelle was a great way to vent. And so they were in my heavier stuff in particular, they were very influential. And then I don't know, these days it's still kind of a mixed bag. Just kind of depends on the mood I'm in. There's, in terms of musical style and technical ability, like Mark Tremonti, formerly of Creed, and he's got a bunch of his solo stuff. Like, I love him. He's still pretty raw and honest in his songwriting, and he's just so good at guitar. It's ridiculous. When I grow up, I want to be Mark Tremonti. But and then the Gettys have been very influential in me over the last probably 5-10 years, just in their ability to and desire to write modern hymns. huge, their songwriting has been very influential, and you can probably hear that in my song "Our God Controls the Raging Seas," because I kind of stylistically borrowed from them a lot on that one.
Real quick, you want to hear my Gettys story?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was at G3 2020, which was in January, so right before the world went crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were at G3, the Gettys were, and I got the feeling they weren't having a very good time at certain points, and a lot was never communicated to us media people. I was working backstage, helping out with things, just it kind of runner doing everything, right? And yeah, so I was set to mic Keith up for a roundtable discussion on stage, and we had a countryman mic, and everything for him to put on. And I approach him like I did everyone else, who was super gracious the entire time, and was like, "Hey, here you go. I got to mic you up and everything." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, sure, whatever." Remove the jacket, do the whole thing. No joke. He just stared at me. I repeated it a couple times. The third time, he removed one side of his jacket, said nothing. I began to put it, and different people have various levels of comfort with like touching whatever. Some of them will take it and put it on their ear. Some people, whatever. He just stood there. So I tried placing it on his ear. Didn't really get it fit right before he turned away. It was kind of hanging off weird. And then I tried to hand him the thing, and he would, the receiver, he wouldn't take it. So I very gingerly just placed it in his pocket really quickly. And it was very strange. And then it goes on stage, and then I find out like halfway through the talk, where the microphone's falling off his ear and everything, that he told the person in charge that he only did mics on a stand, period. He doesn't do anything else. And had he just told me, I'd be like, cool, we'll figure it out. So that was one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in, and I was just like, I had to laugh awkward. So hard afterward, like just
that would be so awkward,
right?
Take this, please.
It was ridiculous, man. I just if I wasn't as good natured as I was, I'd probably be mortified even now. I can't help but laugh. It's just so silly.
You've got to with something like that. Yeah, not gonna lie. I was at their last conference.
The Sing conference.
The Sing conference, yeah. Which the first two times I went was so good. Just because the worship was so powerful. And this time it was just a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could put my finger on anything in particular, but for I guess it kind of felt like one big sales pitch.
Yeah.
For all of their stuff, like one big sales pitch for the Gettys.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything was kind of more or less about them.
Right.
So it was just that weird vibe. But I got to meet Shane, and they were super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they were just like, oh, hey, yeah, we're Shane. And so we talked about music a little bit, and they're like, yeah, man, we love, just the opportunities we've gotten. And but yeah, they were super cool, took a picture with me, and but everything else, like Chris Tomlin was there, and he avoided everybody. Like, he had his personal assistant that had his guitar, and he went up on stage, he did his thing, immediately came back, and he and his assistant ran off. Like, he and the Gettys didn't talk to anybody else. like, which was like the other people, the other speakers and performers, like they get off and they chat with people, but like they always headed straight back to I'm assuming the green room. And it was weird.
And that's one of the really weird things in general, and like this kind of bigger evangelical SBC tangent world, that I've noticed. We were raised Presbyterian for the most part. You had some other influences as well, but I was raised pretty much strictly Reformed Presbyterian. And so like it's one of those things where when I go into another world, which it really is a whole other culture, and I go and I talk to some of these folks, and the other thing is you have this idea of who someone is. For example, like I met Paul Washer, and I didn't really meet. I did talk to Paul some, but the other one was John MacArthur, and there's your Gettys, like, and they're the Gettys, and then I had two people who I didn't think necessarily much one way or the other of. Paul Washer I disagree with on a whole bunch of things, and I've heard some of those sermons, and I don't think he's as great a preacher as people say. I'm just okay, Paul Washer, right? But some people put him way up there. It's like I'm not looking to grade pastors, but some people put him like way up there, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I was thoroughly amazed by his conduct, the way that he treated everyone, the fact that he took time out of everything and would have been on the schedule otherwise, but refused to do a few things so that he could go to the Spanish part of the conference because he speaks Spanish. And those people were not treated well, I'll be honest with you. There's whole other things with that, but I won't go into that. And then John MacArthur literally stood next to the stage during like the lunch period for probably an hour just talking to everyone.
Wow.
And I mean, that guy, money wise and fame wise, he's way up there. So it's like there are some of these guys who you see their conduct and you're like, wow, okay, like bravo, I respect you, sir. And then there's others that you see and you're just like, wait, what are we doing here? Like, do you even see all these people here? Are we having a party or not? Like, do people just hate fellowship?
Yeah. For real. Like I don't know if some people they just get wrapped up in that otherworldly aspect of the being a celebrity in the Christian universe.
Which is such a weird thing.
It's such a weird thing. And so I think maybe they just kind of lose touch with reality and just don't want to be bothered with those unwashed masses. I don't know. That's something that's very confusing because what you're doing requires you to be involved with people, like,
and be super outgoing and everything else.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that part of it is not easy for everybody, but it's still something I had to get over. Like, it's still shocking to people when I tell them I'm a natural introvert, and people are always shocked when I say that because it's just one of those things that it's part of ministry. And I'm really, really grateful to people like Ted Lester and Bill Powis who really helped me to see that we're in the people business. You got to interact with people. So it's always very disappointing when I see these celebrities who like just avoid the masses. It's like, so are we just kind of a source of income for you? It's like, is that all we are right now?
Right.
It's always disappointing.
Yeah.
But those guys those guys like MacArthur who are huge, like everybody knows who John MacArthur is, who can like sit for an hour and just talk with people. It's like, see that he gets it. That's awesome.
Yep, exactly. And then I was just thinking, like, we've been talking about quote unquote Christian celebrities, and let's just bring it out to further to celebrities, just depending on the situation. But I'm gonna ask you a question. And I'm gonna answer it from me for you. If you could, I'll answer it first. I'll ask the question, answer it, and then you can answer for me.
All right.
So basically, I'm imagining a situation where it's you and some kind of famous person that I'd love to just sit down, have a cup of tea, and just watch you two talk. Okay? So you're gonna answer for me. I'm gonna answer for you. You're the fly on the wall in your answer. Okay. So my answer to be the fly on the wall would be you and John Cooper of Skillet.
Oh man, yes, that would be so cool.
He's a really cool dude. I really love him.
Like, I haven't gotten to really meet him personally, but just through everything he's done, especially the last couple of years, I have so much respect for him. Someone who has that kind of platform and is not afraid to shy away from the truth. That I respect that so much.
It makes pretty great rock and roll music.
Yes, he does. Love Skillet, always have. I've seen them in concert many times, and it's always like, yeah, this is awesome. So with you, we're talking like any kind of celebrity, right?
Yeah, totally. Like I just picked the Christian celebrity because of your particular industry, you know. So
yeah, I can see myself being really interested in like you and Christopher Nolan sitting down and discussing story structure. I think that would be a lot of fun to watch,
especially considering I'm not the biggest Nolan fan in the world.
Well, yeah, that, and I am not his biggest fan on all his movies. Like, I'll admit he's not the most perfect filmmaker, but I love the way that he tells stories sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think y'all talking about story structure and you know how you develop that would be fascinating to watch.
That would be a fun conversation regardless. I wasn't knocking your choice at all. I just thought it was an interesting one, particularly because of the friction that could be involved there with me. Yeah, you know, my presuppositions versus his.
It would not be a dull conversation. I mean, like, for sure.
Oh boy.
But he was the first one that popped to mind. I think that would be cool.
Yep, that probably would. So yeah, you've been kicking around YouTube and social media. It's like anytime I'm on social media trying a new platform, I'm always looking up you first because you're the most likely one to be there. And you don't always stick around, and you shouldn't, because no one has that kind of time. But I at least know that if anyone's tried it who I know, it's you. So but you've been doing that for a long time. You've been pushing your music, you've been putting stuff out, and I've always admired your songwriting in particular. That's something that we've always enjoyed as a family too. I still, you know, I haven't done it as much lately because they haven't needed it as much, and the kids have been more into some of the stuff by Clamavi de Profundis lately, which I don't know if you know about them or not.
No,
I'll tell you about them in a second. But you're on a lot of Hazel's, especially old like lullaby Spotify playlists, and she's very familiar with your voice. I play some of your songs and she just starts singing them, you know, enjoys them. So that's awesome. Some of your softer songs ended up on lullaby playlists for my kids, and they love them.
Very cool.
But cool. Also, it's one of the best ways I can think of to make sure you get plenty of those plays.
I'll take it.
But yeah, right. But Clamavi de Profundis, they are a family group. There's not much info on them specifically, like individually, but they on YouTube kind of gained a following because they did some covers of a lot of Tolkien's songs from the Lord of the Rings. And they do particularly fantastic arrangements and good versions of stuff. And Hazel's favorite to listen to is the Song of Durin, which is the one Gimli sings before they or as they're going into the mines of Moria. They see the statue and everything.
Nice.
And then Peter's is the Song of Beren and Luthien, which is really, really good too. So
nice.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yep. But they have a lot of other stuff too. They have a lot of they have some hymns and some Catholic songs, some Latin hymns and things like that. So
Cool.
they cover a broad range of stuff, but they tend to be slower, and Clamavi de Profundis means from the deep. So I think you'll probably really like them.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, so when are you, I know, your governor and many other people want to just, trap you there forever in that state. But
goodness, yeah.
But when do you think and I'm not keeping you on record or anything, but when you heading back down this away, and is there any chance that we could either meet up in the Atlanta area? You could come on over and check out the land of golf in Augusta.
That is a very good question. Probably next time will be probably closer to summer.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to go down around July 4th, so we'll have to carve out some time around
Yeah.
then. I don't know if we'll be going, because Melissa's job has changed. She doesn't have to travel down to Georgia for work anymore. But yeah, July 4th is probably the next time we'll make a trip down.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of gauge when people are around the area and what people can go and what people can't from the brood, so that we can maybe figure out some kind of big meetup at some point, because a lot of those guys have been really cool to each other. We got a few new folks that I'm trying to keep peace with occasionally, whatever, but it's one of those things you got to build and keep the peace and just see where things go.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the people that we've had in the brood.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what else is on your mind? What, like, obviously this is an encouragement for artists. This is an encouragement for people who have been there or haven't and are going through whatever it is to get to where they're going to go. You've been an artist for a really long time in a lot of different areas. You're a jack of all trades like I am. And you just kind of fell into your own particular niche, maybe, like you said, about 5-10 years ago, right? So what is your I guess, what thoughts do you have, not just advice or encouragement, but just whatever you have about that for people who are these poets at war, who are in the trenches, who are fighting for beauty, who are Christians, who have all the questions in the world and hardly any of the answers? What do you have for them?
I think first thing comes to mind, something that I probably would tell my younger self is just keep doing it. And then also don't expect things to just follow just because you're doing something. I think reaching out to other people and making connections with people who can do things that you're not very good at. Like, for instance, something I've always struggled with is self-promotion. I've had to really work at that, because I'm like, put out a song, if people see it, whatever. And why isn't anyone watching this? But yeah, to just keep working at it, keep honing your craft, and find what really sticks. Because I started out playing acoustic, and I just kind of figured that that was going to be my songwriting style, and I kind of have developed more into an electric player and using all the cool stuff that you can do with that. And still drawing from other sources as well. I think reaching out beyond your own comfort zone is a good thing to do. because it can help you refine your own style in many ways, because there are aspects like, I mean, it probably isn't the greatest example, but like jazz, every now and then I'll reach out and like kind of look into some jazz stuff and like the finger style and the chordage and go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, and it'll give me ideas for my own songwriting style. But yeah, like keep at it, don't be afraid to connect with others, and be willing to, don't be afraid to stick with what you're passionate about, because that was tough for me, because I mean, anybody who's listening who's an artist can understand. You get the whole, you're never going to make money doing that, and shouldn't you find something else to do? And if you're passionate about it, just keep at it.
Yeah,
just keep doing it.
Have you ever, this is just something that I've thought about for you a few times. I'm always nowadays, like, because of the brew, because of just a lot of friends that I've made in various communities that do stuff similar to me, tangential to me. Because I'm always trying to figure out my own thing, I tend to like try to look at other people's things and see if I can help them figure it out. Have you ever written for other folks or tried to write for other folks?
Yeah, it's that opportunity has come up a few times, but nothing really serious.
Yeah.
And I keep coming up short when I try to reach out to like people in Nashville and that kind of thing, because either A, they want tons of money up front with help or that kind of thing, or B, they're just not interested in for whatever reason.
At this point, we had some problems. We had all kinds of goofy, weird Zoom issues, and I actually planned on having the video. We actually took the video for this one, but unfortunately mine didn't record. Whoop, I'm already having issues now. My video didn't record, but Ian's did, so we're just going to put this one out as audio. You guys can check out his stuff all over the place. Ian M is who he goes by on Spotify. Please give him a listen. We're working on a website for him. I believe it's ianmmusic.com. M as in Mickey Mouse. Anyway, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Follow God, and he will be with you wherever you go. Let's take care of our families, let's tell stories, and let's get in those trenches. You poets at war.
God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall pray.